Hi, I'm Dave, founder of Halloween Year Round, and today I'm talking about the latest entry in the Twisted Childhood universe, Bambi the Reckoning, a movie that is better than it should be, and that is starting to convince me that maybe there really is something to these, Twisted Childhood universe movies that are taking beloved IPs and characters from our childhoods that we grew up on and making twisted horror movies out of them. And for everyone complaining, I always hear this. They say, why do they always go right to make, as soon as something goes public domain, they make a horror movie out of it? I don't see anyone else doing anything. The whole point about public domain is you're free to do whatever you want with it. So to anyone who's like, oh, I hate how the first thing they do is a horror movie or slasher movie, you are more than welcome to make your own adaptation or do whatever you want with that public domain IP now. But enough ramblings about horror versus other genres. Let's talk about Bambi the Reckoning. When I saw the first Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey, it's admittedly a bad movie, and they kind of knew that it was. It was for the attention, it was for the gimmick. But what I've seen is after the success of it, it gave them the budget to start making more movies. And honestly, I'm seeing them get better and better. I liked Winnie the Pooh 2, Blood and Honey better than the first one. I like Peter Pan's Neverland Nightmare better than Winnie the Pooh 2, Blood and Honey. And I like Bambi the Reckoning better than Peter Pan's Neverland Nightmare and Winnie the Pooh 2, Blood and Honey. It goes the full, it's not a slasher. It's not a supernatural horror movie. It's a monster movie. And I kind of love that these movies feel fresh and different because they're each a different subgenre of horror. This one is that more monster, even an eco-horror movie. We open up with an animation about how toxic waste dumping in the forest is mutating these animals. And we get Zombie Bambi, which other than just being named Bambi, there's no other real connection to it other than it's a killer deer. I liked it for what it was, and it felt like it was more competently made. Like they're getting better at it. As they're doing more of these, they're honing in on their skills, and the movies themselves are getting better. You have a mother and her son traveling across the country so she can drop him off with his father through the woods. They get attacked by this zombie deer. You're thinking, is this going to be Cujo? Is the whole movie going to be just them in the woods at night? Kinda. They go to the house, they meet the whole family, and you have now them trying to outrun the zombie deer in an RV while monster horror movie stuff ensues. I think what most impressed me about it, other than genuinely, yes, the characters feel shallow, but they don't feel as stereotypical or cartoonish or caricaturish as the first Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey. What I was really impressed with was just how good the CGI looks for the budget for this movie. Obviously, they couldn't afford to do animatronics for a lot of the shots. I think in an ideal world, you would have, unlimited money. You could have had, Stan Winston's people create animatronics for it. So Bambi is entirely CGI, but it looks better than you would expect it to. And again, the theme of, it's the forest fighting back against man kind of ties into the original Bambi in a surprisingly subtle manner that's not beating over that. You get what this is referencing? You get what this is referencing? It felt like, again, not to go back to Winnie the Pooh, it felt like Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey was just, let's make a slasher movie where the villain happens to be Winnie the Pooh. This one feels like it understands the concept. It understands the theme of Walt Disney's Bambi, which officially this is not based on because that is still copyright protected. This is an adaptation of the original story. So, yeah, have your lawyers review that before trying to sue anyone. I love how it feels like it understands the theme of Bambi and the idea of, man is the most terrifying thing to nature. Not everything is as it seems. And at the end of the day, you kind of almost root for Bambi. I don't really want to spoil why, but you sort of understand it all. So it's not going to be in my top 10 movies of the year, but again, I'm just surprised with how each of these entries has gotten better and more entertaining, and again, more confident and competent in the filmmaking, that this one doesn't feel as cheap as the other ones. And I know that it still is, but it's just from a technical standpoint, and even from like a suspenseful standpoint, and just the way that it's shot, the cinematography's getting better, the editing's getting better, the visual effects are getting better. And it makes me all the more excited and curious to see where they go next. I know the Pinocchio one's up next. I've seen the pictures of the animatronic they did build for Pinocchio. I got high hopes for it. But hey, these are just my ramblings. This is just my review. Let me know in the comments, what did you think of Bambi the Reckoning? Am I totally out of my game here calling it good? Am I crazy for even thinking that? Come at me. That's what YouTube is for. Like, share, subscribe, all the YouTube stuff. If you don't, you may end up trapped in a dark forest overnight that is filled with zombie deer and other Bambi movie references that I don't want to necessarily spoil, but you remember who his best friend was, so that's all I'll say. And as always, every day is Halloween.